Welcome, scholars, to lesson 7.3, factoring x squared plus bx plus c. So when we're factoring, we're writing a polynomial as a product of factors. So it says to factor x squared plus bx plus c as parentheses x plus p, and the other set of parentheses x plus q. You need to find p and q such that p plus q equals b and p times q equals c. So with factoring, it's the opposite of what we just did. We just multiplied polynomials either using the box method or the FOIL method. And now this time we're just working backwards. We're actually going to have the trinomial and we have to figure out what the beginning is going to be. But instead of dividing, it's called factoring. So to do this, we're going to just start with the basics of what is going to multiply to a number and what's going to add to a number, because that's what's going to help us factor. So for number one, it says write two numbers that multiply to the value on top and add to the value on bottom. So what two numbers multiply to 40 and add to 13? So let's list our factors. Let's list the factors and let's explain what a factor is. Factors are what multiply to that number. So the factors of 40 would be 1 and 40 because those multiply to give you 40. That would be 2 and 20. You can't divide it by 3. That would be 4 and 10. See, I'm just going to go through like my numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 and 8. And then, we can stop there because look at that. 1 and 40 add up to 41. 2 and 20 add up to 22. 4 and 10 add up to 14. And 5 and 8 add up to 13. So our two numbers are going to be 5 and 8. So let's look at number 2. Write two numbers that multiply to the value on top and add to the value on bottom. So what multiplies to 28 and adds to 11? So let's list our factors of 28, starting with 1. 1 times 28 gives you 28. 2 times 14 gives you 28. Now let's think, can you divide 28 by 3? No. Can you divide 28 by 4? Yes. So that would be 4 and 7. Here's the thing, we have to know our times tables to do this lesson. So if you're still struggling with that, I would practice with, online flashcards and just, use a calculator. You can just guess and check, keep dividing by each number to see if you get a whole number. So 28 divided by 4 gives you 7, right? So 4 and 7 are my factors of 28. And then I can see, oh, look, 4 and 7 add up to 11. So I can stop there, and my two numbers are 4 and 7. So go ahead and pause the video and try 3, 4, 5, and 6 on your own. All right, let's go over 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I just noticed, or I just remembered that 4, 5, and 6 have negatives, so those are a little trickier. But number 3, you should be able to do perfectly fine. So let's list the factors of 21. So that would be 1 and 21. 21 is not even, so I can't divide it by 2. But I can divide it by 3. That gives me 7. And look at that. 3 and 7 add up to 10. So my numbers are 3 and 7. Now, with, again, 4, 5, and 6, since they're negative, they're a little different. It says what multiplies to 49 and adds to negative 14. Because it's multiplying to a positive number and adding to a negative number, that means I'm going to have two negatives. So I'm just listing my factors, but they're both going to be negative. So my factors of 49 are 1 and 49. And then 49 only has only two pairs here, 149 and then 7 and 7. There's nothing else that can multiply to 49. And then since it's negative 14, it's going to be negative 7 and negative 7. So notice how negative 7 times negative 7 equals positive 49. And negative 7 plus negative 7 equals negative 14. All right, so for number 5, this one is probably the trickiest because it is multiplying to negative and it's also adding to negative. which means we have to list more factors, because that means it's going to be a negative and a positive number. And there's just going to be two different ways, and you'll see in a second. So let's first list 1 and 20, but then make one of them negative. So let's make -1 and +20, and then also +1 and -20. So see how there's two different ways I'm going to list each one. I have -2 and +10, and then +2 and -10. So far, none of these add up to -1. 3 cannot go into 20, so let's try 4. So I have -4, +5, and +4, -5. And then right here, now one of these will add up to -1. Which one of these pairs adds up to -1? It has to be this one down here, because 4 plus -5 gives me -1. So that's my answer to this one. And now for number 6, it's the same as number 4, where I'm going to have two negatives, because if it's multiplying to a positive but adding to a negative, it's going to be two negatives. So I'm going to list my factors, 1 and 6, 2 and 3, and look at that, it has to be -2 and -3, because that multiplies to +6 and adds to -5. All right, now that we've done that, now we can go into actually factoring. First, we're going to label. I want us to label this up here, just because I want to give you directions on how to label. So this is going to be A, this is going to be B, and this is going to be C. So A is our first one, B is our second term, C is our third term. And this is important because in the steps here, I'm going to mention B and C. And so that's why we need to label it first. So for number 7, let's label, this is A, this is B, this is C. And we're going to determine what two numbers multiply to C and add up to B. So it should multiply to, and C is 20, so it should multiply to 20. And it's going to add up to B, so it's going to add up to -12. So, and we have to determine this just like we did with the questions above. So it multiplies to 20 and adds to -12. So that's going to be two negatives. So that would be, so we can list 1 and 20. That's not it. 2 and 10. That's not it. Can't divide it by 3. 4 and 5. That's not it. Oh, wait, sorry. 2 and 10 is it. So that would be this one. My apologies. So that would be -2 and -10. Now that we've done step 1, we can set up our parentheses with x in the front. So that means we're going to just put x like this and x like this. And then we've decided the two numbers already, so all we have to do is place them inside the parentheses. So -2 is going to go in my first one, -10 is going to go in my second one, or I could have put -10 in the first one, -2 in the second one. It really does not matter. And I'm done. So let's look at number 8. I'm just looking at how many there are. 10. So you're going to do 10 and 11. You're going to try those. I'm going to do 8 and 9. So let's label, kind of small here, A, B, and C. So it multiplies to 20 and adds to 9. So we're going to list our factors again. 20 is 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. Look at that. 4 and 5 adds up to 9. So we're going to set up our parentheses with x in front. And then this is, 4 and 5. So since +4, it's going to be x plus 4. And +5 is x plus 5. And then I'm done. Now, if I want to double check these, I can. So let's say I want to double check my answer. Let's use FOIL to double check. X times x is x squared. That's first. Then outside is x times 5, which is 5x. Inside is 4 times x, which is 4x. And last is 4 times 5, which is 20. So x squared plus 9x plus 20. If I get my original one right here, that means I must be correct. All right. So now number 9 will be the last one that I'm going to do, and then you're going to try 10 and 11. So what multiplies to 36, right? I labeled A, B, and C. What multiplies to C and adds to negative 12 to B. So let's list those factors. So 36 would be 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9. Oh, and since these are multiplying to a positive and adding to a negative, they're both going to be negative. And then 6 and 6. So there we go. It looks like my answer is going to be negative 6 and negative 6, right? Negative 6, negative 6, multiply to positive 36 and add to negative 12. So I set up my parentheses with x and x, and then just fill in my answer that I found, negative 6 and negative 6. So go ahead and pause the video and try 10 and 11 by yourself. All right, let's go over 10 and 11. So we're going to find what multiplies to negative 28 and adds to positive 3. So negative 28 is going to be a positive and a negative. So that's going to be 1 and 28, but let's make one of them negative. And now let's make this positive 1 and negative 28. Those do not add to 3 though. So now let's try negative 4 and 7 and positive 4 and negative 7. So now which one of these adds up to positive 3? So my positive number has to be bigger. So it has to be this one right here. Oh, I never boxed this. All right, so I have negative 4 and positive 7. So I'm going to fill that in. Negative 4 and positive 7. And I'm done, right? The hardest part is just figuring out the factors. I would just list every factor, every possibility, and see what fits both, right? Or, well, really see what adds up to that number. So for number 11, I'm going to figure out what multiplies to positive 24 and adds to 10. And now if you can see this, you don't need to list everything, right? I mean, if you can just see that it's going to be 6 and 4, you can skip this step. But I'm just going to show everybody that if you are struggling, you can always just list everyone out. So 1 and 24, 2 and 12, right? 3 and 8, 4 and 6. Look at that. 4 and 6 adds to 10. So since my factors are 4 and 6, I'm going to set up my parentheses with x in front. Positive 4 is plus 4, and positive 6 is plus 6. So now that we've done the notes, you're going to go ahead and try the practice. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.